Alright, we live. Yep, we are. A little bit stuttery, but we seem to be alive, so that'll do. Anyway, we're going to get straight into this. We were repairing this machine, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and it had a whole bunch of issues. I think we had, that's right, we had the blown capacitor, which caused a dead SMC, which, yeah, it was a cascade. During testing, I found that it will not start from the battery on its own, so yeah, that's obviously got to be fixed. It's a bit of a pain because you go through the process of cleaning it all up, putting it back together, only to find that it doesn't work. So, but that's what you got to do. As annoying as it can be. Hey Greg, frustrating for you too. It seems like it must be something going around the world. Running into a bunch of frustrations here in the business as well. Yeah, starting to make, take the wind out of me a little bit. A little bit concerned. Try to resolve certain business issues, but it's not always fun. Even if you're trying to put your best effort in. Sometimes your best effort simply doesn't get you over the line. Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Taylor, how's it going? Wayne, those weird battery things arrived, by the way. I think, not battery, cable things. Is this what you were talking about? I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with those. Little weirdo things. Right, Blitzond. Alright, so I didn't need to, I actually need the battery in here. So if it's not starting off the battery, then maybe we're not getting 342, maybe the diode's blown, something like that, I'm not sure. Plug it in, get the multimeter up and running and have a look. Used to solder LCD flex cables back on. Oh right, so it's basically, it's a planar hold down sort of tool. Hey Lethal One. Okay, let's see what we got. Yeah, well we've got no 342. Okay. Well, 1.9, no frickin' multimeter. I don't know why I call the microscope a multimeter. Guess I'm just a little bit retarded. We're up, we're up. Yep. $2 volts. That doesn't seem right. The battery's cactus? Could it be that simple? That's kind of strange because when it's up and running and it's charging, it actually shows that the battery is charging with a decent amount of voltage. So it's a little peculiar. Possibly problematic. Let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to cause trouble here. Let's try this battery. Hey computer beta, welcome. Let's see if we get the same on that. I don't know if this is charged, it's actually probably quite a flat one. No, that's significantly better. Oh crap. Did I just create a stream for no good purpose and it end up just being a bad battery? That's embarrassing. People come to be entertained and all I'm giving them is a bad battery. see if I can find a... Let's see, 15... Nope, Squillion batteries here, but I don't seem to have a proper 1466. I keep using them, that's the problem. What gets me though is that why was it showing that it was charging okay? That's a little weird. No, this is a shonky, random-brained one. I'm not gonna use that one. No siree, not today. Instead we're gonna use a really bad-looking, beaten-up battery, and I bet you that'll be just fine. Battery isn't bad. Well, it's only putting out 2.3 volts, which is a little bit low for these batteries. That's well below the standard cell level. Unless it's... see, even that's 7.3. And this one's been sitting around in the drawer for ages. Right, put my shonky battery over there. Hey Jim, no, it hasn't been long, and it's only been disappointing so far. Okay, now it gets interesting. That's showing 6.95. So what's going on here? There's damage to the battery connector there. You can see how it's just pushing out slightly there. So maybe there's another fault at hand. As soon as I plug it in, it's 2. Open circuit voltage is 6.5, plug it in, it crash and burns. So the battery has a hell of a lot of internal resistance. No charge or something. Let's see what happens when I put the power onto it again. But yeah, normally cell voltages should not collapse that badly when current's being drawn from, especially when it's only a small amount of current. Plugged in. NL's been demanding wanting to know the PP bus. Is that battery only? Because I'll be very surprised if it's anything more than 2 volts, let alone 1 volt. Alright, NL, just for you. 2.2, yep. I'll wait for it to get started again, and while it's charging I'll see what its voltage is. When I was running this it was showing around about 20% charge, so it's got some interesting figures there. Good, it's up and running now. Oops. 8.4. 8.4, that's a little bit on the low side. So yeah, I think we basically just got a very dead battery. So that was all for nothing. Interesting, it must be something in the electronics, probably, because the cells themselves look perfectly good. Because you can get puffy cells and they can still read a reasonable value. You know, they may not hold much or anything, but yeah. Probably, my guess would be maybe one of the MOSFETs, one of the protection MOSFETs has been damaged and it's a very high resistance. So on an open circuit situation or open cell voltage, whatever you do, open circuit voltage, it is fine, it shows up. But as soon as you put any load on it, it'll immediately crash. Farnell, will you please stop saying what I'm already doing? Okay, where the hell do they put the control electronics in this one? There it is down there. Yeah, we could do that, Wayne, but I have a feeling that it is the control electronics at fault in this case. How are you supposed to get into these ones? I've never actually ripped apart a 1466 pack before. Other than brutally, other than destroying it, that is. I have to break. Bloody hell. Alright. I don't think we're going to get much in the way of answers. Let's see if I can just use my cutters. Just making sure I'm not cutting into anything important. Not because I care at this point about the battery, but because I care about not exploding things. Okay. Crap. Okay, let's see how much damage I've done. There's nothing really blatantly obvious at this point. Hey, Bill.
I just got from Denise.
Denise?
Yeah, Denise Hammer.
Right.
So she dropped off
What'd she drop off?
computer and hard drive.
Oh, okay.
I got her phone number.
Thanks.
She said she has messaged you.
Okay. Probably my brain's... Thanks.
It's still out there though.
Sorry?
It's still out there.
They're still out there. What, just chattering or what?
Like I spoke to her,
Yeah.
detailed. She left the stuff, I
Yeah.
went and took the stuff,
Yeah.
and then now they're just on the road in the car idling.
Yeah, maybe they're talking to each other, whatever. Yeah. Weird. Yeah, genuinely can't see anything notably wrong down here. So I'd say it's probably a bit of the electronics just failed. The cells do not look in any way as if they've got any problems. You could probably take this daughter board off a good, off just a bad cell pack and swap it and use these cells. But it's a hell of a lot of work for something that's probably not worth it in terms of you can just buy another pack. At least the 1466 packs aren't too expensive. Hey Kyle. Well, at least that means I don't have to do any more work on the laptop itself. Okay. Next job is an iPhone 6s that probably needs a TriStar. Battery replacement did nothing. Still about 4 milliamp hour charge, which is completely useless. So I'm just gonna see if I can get any data access. Pardon me. And if I can't get any data access, then we're just gonna have to go in and hope for the best. Just gotta wait for it to boot up. Hey Tom George, Mr. Kumar. We were talking about people before. Yeah, I'll just check my own while I'm waiting for that phone to boot. So just talking to Mr. TCRS. Connect. Oops. Oh, that's hilarious. This actually has touch, but not touch. This seems to have data after all. That's kind of weird. Don't normally have TriStar out in that way. It could be Tigris, in fact. Yeah. This is where I need Jason Vilma. So you could see here I plugged it in and it's picked it up, so it's not charging, but it does pick up the phone. So maybe it's not TriStar after all, which means I'm going to have to race downstairs for a couple of minutes and plug that in. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes, and if I'll pick up another machine that needs repairing while I'm down there, and then I'll come on back up. In the meantime, you can enjoy my completely messy workshop as a sign of my lack of professionalism. Alright, we're back. Oddly enough, that phone started charging when I plugged it in. So that's just fantastic. Seems like it's going to be the day of obscure faults that test my sanity. Looks like they've already tested my hairstyle. Just going to have to get the bottom plate off this one. I believe this one has a catastrophic failure in some parts on the board. Not quite sure what induced it, but I guess we'll see. It's a 1398. I seem to recall seeing the picture of it and going, oh yeah. But this one started out that they replaced it came in and it was apparently showing all uppercase characters or something. And they replaced the top deck and everything, and then it blew the parts, which is quite curious. Quite curious in a bad way. Yeah, so it's had a replacement battery. Trying to remember where they said the fault was. Let's take the hard drive out. Another one of those dreaded Samsungs. Hey Predator, hey Defpom. Hey Mr. Bicker. I just need to put a sticker on this one. Cannot go losing anything. Now, I wish I could remember where it was that I saw that fault. Guess we'll have to actually use our eyes and find out. Paulie 540, yes, I am in Queensland, but fortunately, oh god, yes, I see where the fault is already. Yeah, I am in Queensland, but I've already loaded. Okay, so we have blown both inputs of the 3V42 circuit. The cap is probably at fault, my guess is, due to the corrosion. Yep. Now, hopefully, I can see a little bit of puffing there, but hopefully it won't be too bad. Let's see if we can just... Can you dislodge you? No. No crazy Jester Jones knockoff method on that one. I mean, you can try do it. Try get it to just knock right off, but I've got to take the board off anyway. And at least this saves me the risk of doing any sort of more damage to the board. It's got to come out anyway. Richard, they're quite durable. Yeah, when people go on about MOSFETs blowing up and stuff like that, it's really a carryover from the very old days, particularly when they had like the early germanium FETs. Notice I said FET, not MOSFET. And those things, you'd walk past them from 2 meters away and they would decide that today was the day that they would die. But modern MOSFETs generally always have protection on their inputs for the gate. And it's pretty hard to blow them. That said, there are some people who seem to be predisposed to destroying all electronics. Fortunately, I don't appear to be one of those, because for many years I have been very cavalier about my ESD protections. My wife, on the other hand, does seem to zap everything everywhere, even in the middle of a storm when it's extreme humidity. She still manages to come up with a bit of static electricity to zap one of the cats. It's quite a talent. Lethal one, yes, we could all have corona and not know it. The joy of the 10 to 14 day incubation period. I think that's where corona is really making the headway, in the fact that it can have such a long and active period without being symptomatic. I suppose we should be thankful, though. I mean, as bad as it is, it's not like it's Ebola or anything. Can you imagine if you had something with the lethality of Ebola, or the mortality, I should rather say, the mortality rate of Ebola, and with the ability to stay hidden for a couple of weeks while also being contagious, then we would certainly be very much up the creek, and you can expect the world to pretty much go straight into full shutdown no matter what. Australia's been very slack on the shutdown thing, and if Australia comes out of it comparatively unscathed relative to the other countries statistically, it'll only be because of the fact that Australia is a rather sparse continent, sparsely populated continent rather, and so our lack of, say, transmission, or lack of anything severe in spite of our rather lax attitude, will simply be because the country itself creates a bit of a social distancing effect. As opposed to any good behaviour on our behalf. Well, that's floating up, that microphone. That's okay. This is obviously a replacement deck. So I'd say what's happened in this one is that they had corrosion in the keyboard. That was causing the original problem that brought it in. And unfortunately there was also corrosion on the main board, which then, after they had fixed up their portion, it blew up again. And it's through no direct fault of their own. Hey RDP. Now, hopefully we haven't suffered too much damage. We shouldn't have, because this cap is on the input side, so even that regulator should be just fine. We'll essentially only need to replace the resistors, the diode, the cap, and we should be good. In theory, I'm going to take this little spacer off because I know that's just going to go melty. Yep, it is just one of those things that happen. It's just unfortunate. It seems to these things just get us when we least want them to. Okay. Mike Kemp, try restarting. I don't even know why I've got this K tip on. I'm just going to hot air the heck of everything off. First thing we'll do is take off that cap, just to verify our short's removed. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't. And short is removed. Yeah, let's get everything else off. This diode will most likely be quite dead, or at least damaged. I mean, maybe the resistors might have protected it, but I'm not really. Oh, that one just fell in half. Okay. Farnell, don't you have your own work to do? Okay, I don't even know what board this is. Ooh, 138. No, I really don't get those. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do not have a 138 on my list, but let's have a look. You never know. Sometimes I'll buy boards just for the hell of it. You do not look 138-ish, you look something else-ish. 3332. So at the opposite end of the spectrum of the development process of that one. Well, I got a 3662 and it looks like it's got identical input stage or close enough to it. I'll keep looking to see if I've got a 138. What are you? You're a 163, which is pretty damn close actually. Yeah, we'll go the 163. Not that it matters, those parts are quite common across all boards. It's 342 stage. Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. There's not much point in me getting all fussy about it, because it is basically The same everywhere. Interesting, this one's got 2 caps on it. Anyway. So we'll take a 2 resistors diode and one of those caps. Yeah, I'm not going to bother reheating that completely, not until we get all the parts in. The boards like to hold their heat. Makes it easier for me. And the cap. What? I don't even know how those parts ended up on my flux. Did I just run over? Oop! I just totally annulled this board. This board was just walking down the street and I ran over it. Hey, Catherine. I might just put a smidge more solder on one of those diode input legs. By a smidge, I mean a full fillet. Okay, this should now run. got a fan spin. And we're up and running. Just make sure we get some green light activity. Okay, that's good. We're all good. We're fixed. Yeah, so that one's fixed. A bit sad, I'm gonna have to ultrasonic the whole board, and it's just this little area. Times like this I wish I could, maybe I can try just dip it in, but it never seems to work, just dipping it in, so yeah, better off just doing the whole board. Excellent. Just want to have a look at that keyboard. Didn't feel like they had it in fully. What's going on down there? There you go. So we've got corrosion on the keyboard connector as well. So that's going to give them grief. That will probably be why the cap locks feels like it's on, because of all that junk in there. They could probably come out with ultrasonic, but I will go along and solder it up anyway. Probably wouldn't hurt for me to check over a few other areas, you know, do the rest of the board. I'm just going to give it a light ultrasonic, not ultrasonic, a light flux and boil. Not much, just enough to get something in there and boiling up. And I will also hit it with the soldering iron a bit. Yep. Can't get enough heat in there without it risking it bobbling up on that lock tab. Naturally, of course, all the pins except the ones I want. Yeah, that should fix it. We'll leave it like that. Wayne, yes, sorry. Oh man, I gotta love it when sometimes your voice goes out of control. Yes, Wayne, the water heater did arrive. I thought I mentioned that to you before, like when it did originally get here. Yeah. The suicide bath toy. I'm just slowly drawing the solder out of this. While I'm doing that, it's also, yeah, it's kind of doing two favors at once, so two things at once. It's giving the chance for the corrosion to get eaten out. How did you not get fired in an attitude like that? Unfortunately, Wayne, half the problem is that the 22 litre tank actually heats up in a pretty good time. So it's only about an hour and a half before it, or an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at the worst, before it's up to operating temperature. Whereas the 10 litre one was at least a 3-hour wait before it came up. So I've kind of lost the necessity of having such a thing. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we just got a bit more janitorial work here. Yeah. And being the ISL 6259, that's slightly important. Ah, where's the out of focus? Hey, Mr. Rossman. Good to have you here, as always. Glad to see that my payments to have you turn up here for fan service are working. Yeah, just boil this sucker. Lewis, look, I've got a proper power supply on-screen display for my streams, unlike your shonky setup. This one's legit. Yeah, I'm gonna pull those parts off and have a look. I'm in no mood to take chances today. It was a little bit dodgy, that one. Well, Lewis, I've told you a few times that I can do it for yours, but you just ignore me. And yeah, you're gonna attribute it to the fact that you're inundated with people trying to buy your soul, a piece of your soul, ride on your tail, things like that. But, well, that's your loss. Let's see, has they got the same setup on this one? Not quite. Look. Oh, nice. How lovely. They've knocked that part off and left me some hair. Arnold G, I actually sung that in my head then, you bastard. Oh, of course, these are the current input stage, and that's just the noise reduction cap. It's all good. Lewis Rossman not have the time. Yes, of course, Lewis never has the time. He's a busy man. He's a busy man, distracting us, telling us that Jester Jones is the one with the water tower full of gold coins when he's really the one that's loading up on the cash. He's distracting us. Come on, the guy just spent millions on a new office. Anyway, if he really wants a better looking on-screen display, then he knows how to get a hold of me. You're just gonna have to whinge on live stream or something. Yeah, I'm gonna take this cap too. Hey Sonia. Dan the plumber. Did I say hello to you before, Dan? Hopefully I did. I don't want to seem like I'm being rude. No, he doesn't hang around long, but I can understand that. In all sincerity, I would not like to be in possession of his phone or anything like that. Can you imagine how often that thing would be pinging and ringing and just carrying on? Lots of stuff, lots of emails, probably people professing their love, undying devotion, willingness to die for him, that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's that fairy corrosion. It's all pretty and sparkly, but it's from bugs, from what I can tell. Well, now that I've seen the bottom side of this board, I am actually, oh man, I actually think giving it a good ultrasonic is definitely going to be in its best interest. Lewis, I do not envy you at all with that. I mean, I'm only at 20,000 now, and I already get it enough. Each morning I wake up and there's a good collection of stories in there, and I'm thinking, yeah, it'd be nice to be able to help everybody, but sometimes I'm a little jaded and think that people overplay their hand a little bit. Make up bigger sob stories. I think the people who genuinely are deserving of such things are usually the ones that don't come forward asking. Or if they do come forward, they manage to word it in such a way that you don't feel like the worst person in the world if you deny their request. So I guess there's a bit of a reverse psychology effect on that. I mean, if you answered and you responded to them all, you'd go broke. There's just no way to handle them all. Yeah, I'm not seeing much else that... Yes, people in genuine need situations or who are probably worthy of such things are typically more humble. Not always, but typically they are. I guess because they understand the gravity of what they're asking. Oh, it's corrosion. Oh, no. Okay. Well, lucky this one hasn't died. That's... hopefully... yeah. This one's close to dying. Let's see. Fortunately, that corrosion looks like it's just a bit of surface. Hey, user. Yeah, the corrosion was in a bad place. As these, of course, are our regulator VRM modules. And if they do something wrong, it usually cooks your CPU. Brought to you by Farnell. I would love to know what actually caused this corrosion, because it's a bit of a wide splatter field. It's almost like I need to get Dexter in here and tell me what happened. Is this Catherine? Laughing, coughing, sneezing, very painful, broken ribs. Well, how did you get broken ribs? Jane Robert, I'm in GMT plus 10. Oh, Sonia's got the cracked ribs, right. I'm sorry to hear that, Sonia. That's no good. Was that surgical reasons? Oh, Fight Club, she doesn't talk about it, radio. Because I know often when you go into surgery you can wake up with a whole lot of things hurting that shouldn't have been hurting based on the original surgery. Particularly if you go in for some sort of orthopedic surgery. Orthopedics just seem to love beating on people. It's almost like they hate humans. I think we're... Yeah, I think we're done. Throw this in the ultrasonic and pray that it comes out okay. But that's definitely a wide scatter field of corrosion, so I'm not sure what's up with that. It does give me the heebie-jeebies a bit. I don't think it was a dirty pin. I think it was just a bit of flux that sort of spat out to the side. Anyway, is my ultrasonic on? No, it's not. Bugger. Okay. That'll be a 2-hour wait. Yeah. I mean, yeah, as soon as I saw it I was like, oh, maybe it's a dirty pin, but yeah. So, I had the same reaction. So you weren't out of line on that at all. Wow, that is a messy paste job. It's almost like some sort of PC gamer got to this one. Yeah, someone who loves their PC gaming and said, I'm going to throw a whole lot of paste on there because it makes it cool better. And I've got weird sticker residues here. Looks like the number 0. And the person that put this on here was 37 years old, male, 6'3", and just had a meal at McDonald's before. A bit of flux down there. Yeah, this board's got a peculiar history, whatever the heck. I don't know how they managed to get quite this much thermal transfer paste spread all over it. It says about 50% more off the chip than there is actually on the chip. CSI, I was able to zoom and enhance the 2-pixel image to turn it into a full image and see what the person behind the door was reading 2 weeks ago using their residual image. We did that by quickly throwing a probe out to Pluto regions and capturing the light that was reflected. Some of the things they come up with, you're like, yeah. The worst thing is, it makes it difficult for people like us to then tell people, no, there is nothing we can do for a particular job, because they're all like, but I saw it on CSI. Okay, they didn't really say that, but you know what I mean. Gives them false hope that there is something that can be done. And what doesn't help is if you do happen to, by some miracle of a chance, manage to one day solve something that is quite difficult, it just reinforces their belief that anything's possible. Yeah, John, Robert, I mean, it is to a degree, but not quite to that degree. It is still making data out of what isn't there. It's just making data that has a high probability of fit. Basically, you're just interpolating. It's kind of like... Basically, it is kind of like... If you look at something and you can deduce back from that what caused it. So... Water has a memory, apparently. Oh no. What sort of memory? Are we talking homeopathic memory? I have seen certain reports about that scenario. Personally, my explanation of that is that whoever wrote the hologram system isn't clearing the buffers properly. And they're being lazy. Maybe it causes too much of a reduction of frame rate in reality. So they've foregone that and decided that, well, no one's going to take any notice of water molecules, so we'll just leave those old buffer data in there without flushing it. Yeah, some people are going to believe that. Then again, I am a partial believer of the possibility that we are in fact in a simulation. But while it may help us cope with the scenario that we're living in, and when you get out of this shell, it still basically brings up the same questions for the shell above. It's a bit like 13th Floor. That was a good movie. Alright. Well, I think we're gonna... Oh, I'll go check on that iPhone 6S that might need a TriStar replacement. Or maybe a Tigris, I'm not really sure. So, I'll be back in a minute. Alright, well this is strange, this one actually is now charging. So I'm a little bit... feeling a bit personally defeated there, I'm not sure what the heck went on then. Best I can imagine is maybe when I put the new battery in, the data line pin didn't get connected properly. So even still, I'll plug it in again and see if I get charge. 80% charge, and I'm charging at 1.4 amps, so looks like no TriStar replacement on this one. No siree. Just going to put it back together. Put it back together and collect our $200. Could also be there's something intermittent going on. That'll be just the flavour of the day. Let's have a look in its port, see if there's any junk up in there. Yeah, that is pretty pristine. I mean, sure, it could be nicer, but really there's no packing of anything up in there. That's pretty good going, considering it's the 6S. That's been around a bit of screen not sitting down 100% there, probably from it's had a screen replacement, so it's probably a slightly distorted chassis. Hey Ricktech, let's see if this thing will start when I plug it in. Yep, it does. Okay. This scenario, I'm going to give it back to the customer, charge for the battery replacement, and if it should happen to come up for charge issue again, then at that point I will look at the TriStar, but I really cannot justify replacing the TriStar at this point. So I just have to message him rather. And they're already messaging me saying, is it ready yet? Okay, it's done. VDiv, there really wasn't much point in cleaning that charge port. Unable to, so it's even had a replacement button on it. Interesting. Like a full refurb. Let's check that everything runs, that's good. Alright. We'll leave it at that. Okay then, well, that ends the day. So, at least we had one board that we managed to fix. I don't know, we managed to solve the battery being the fault rather than my work. Anyway, we'll leave it at that, and I will catch up with you guys later. I don't know if I'm going to do any programming or anything soon. I haven't got anything new to code other than just flex board view coding, but I generally prefer not to do that as a live stream, because what will often happen is I'll make a mistake in there and then I'll share it out to the world and then Lewis yells at me. So I prefer it if he doesn't. So anyway, you all take care. I'll see you next time.